Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-hosts, TV, aka TV on Basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
Man, first round is finally in the books for the NBA playoffs, bro. We had some amazing first round series, and now I think we're primed for man one of the more interesting second rounds we've had in quite a long time.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot to talk about in this episode. We just released an episode on Friday, Jay, and we're already back here. And we're telling you guys,
Come
when
on,
the
man.
playoffs come around, we are locking down. Like we got to talk about already how the first game of the Nuggets Timberwolves series is. There's actually quite a bit to talk about there. We're gonna make our predictions for the rest of the second round series, which we didn't do, which we didn't get to go through in the last episode. We're even
Mhm.
gonna do some postmortems on the West teams that already got eliminated. It's gonna be an action-packed episode. We're still gonna be doing the draft at the end, and finally, we're gonna be doing Jay's final punishment for the Hit Your Free Throws podcast. So
Yeah.
for the daily NBA Picks challenge, he's got his fire hot popcorn over here. We're gonna be going through that as we do the NBA draft. It's gonna be a pretty damn good episode. So you want to be sitting down, you want to be sitting back, relaxing, and enjoying this episode. But before we get into that, we do have to plug our socials. Remember to follow our individual socials at TV on Basketball, at the Routine Jumper. Those links can be found in the description down below. In terms of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, for the best daily NBA content and for the most up-to-date daily NBA content, check out the Hit Your Free Throws page on TikTok and Instagram. Like we told you, if you want to see instant reactions from both of us in terms of NBA playoff basketball, that's where you want to be. In terms of the YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe, hit the notification bell so we will not miss an episode. And if you're supporting us on any of the podcast networks, Spotify, Apple, review, subscribe, all that good stuff, we do appreciate all of you guys' support. Jay, are you ready to get into this?
I'm excited, man. I love playoff basketball.
I do love you some playoff basketball, and we are gonna start with the one game that happened in the second round already. We're not gonna go too long on it, but man, that was a fun game to watch. I'm the one who I'd have to do the instant reaction to that, and that was a damn fun instant reaction to do. We had the Timberwolves potentially shocking the Denver Nuggets game one, winning 106-99 on the backs of Anthony Edwards, going for 43 points. Baby Jordan is here. Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you. We haven't heard your thoughts on this game yet. I've put my thoughts out there on TikTok. But how did you feel about this game?
So I thought this was huge because honestly, it looked like a defensive matchup in the beginning because outside of Anthony Edwards, who was going crazy at the very start of the game, I think he had what like 15 points or something like that to kick off the game.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was basically instant offense for the Minnesota Timberwolves in the beginning, and then things kind of veered off a little bit. Karl Anthony Towns once again kind of got in foul trouble despite having a pretty solid third quarter. Can't sleep on the way he
Very
came out in the
good
third
third quarter.
quarter.
Because yeah, Anthony Edwards only had like 3 or 5 points in that third quarter.
hmm
Karl Anthony Towns was doing his thing.
Yeah, this was a game where also for the Denver Nuggets, they were not getting into their offense the way that we're used to seeing them. Jamal Murray struggled for three straight quarters, and the guy who was playing Robin to Nikola Jokic's Batman was actually Michael Porter Jr., who with a
Yes.
couple of big
Yeah.
threes in the back half of the first quarter kept things kind of within striking distance for a game that outside of like a handful of guys, there wasn't a whole lot of big name value performance wise in game one. If you think about it, Jaden McDaniels didn't have a strong performance after basically outplaying all of the big three in the closeout game against the Phoenix Suns. Nikhil Alexander Walker wasn't heard from nearly as much. Rudy Gobert was solid, but his impact was, of course, seen more on the defensive end. TV, the guy that we got to talk about, though, because we know Ant Edwards, 43 points, big time
Yeah.
performance, one of the best ones in Minnesota Timberwolves history, and sends this team to the second round for the first time in a million years, right? But our boy Nas Reed came up big, bro. He came up big.
Ooh. The
Two
bench
points
battle, bro. The
two
bench battle. We
points through
talked
the
about
first,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 points through the first three quarters, 14 points in the fourth quarter alone. 14 points in the fourth quarter alone. Nas Reed almost single-handedly outscored the Denver Nuggets bench by himself in game one. Between Anthony Edwards all game long, and then Nas Reed coming up big in the fourth quarter with Karl Anthony Towns on the bench. I mean, that's the story of the game. I think it was just huge for them to be able to strike first. And if I'm not mistaken, this is like only the third home loss for the Denver Nuggets in the playoffs in like the last 2 seasons.
Yes,
So
yeah.
this isn't a team that gives away home court advantage, let alone not to kick off the series. So if Minnesota comes out in game 2 and falls a little flat, at the end of the day, they can say that they did something that not too many teams are privy to doing. And it sets up a real strong foundation for the rest of this series because they've been a really strong team at home. And that's not just during these playoffs where obviously they won 2 of their games, but also during the regular season, they were a pretty strong home team as well. This spells really good for the Timberwolves to strike first like this. So you got to be proud of what they're doing. And I mean, Anthony Edwards just continues to make history, man. He's putting himself in an echelon like no other. We're hearing Michael Jordan comparisons just about every other day at this point. And
Yeah.
man, this offseason, I'm sure we're gonna end up doing position rankings, and Lord knows where he'll be.
100%, man. Look, this game really, I loved how this game just completely correlates with our series preview with this game because what do we say that the Timberwolves needed to win? It was the bench minutes. This is not like the Denver Nuggets in years past where they had a Jeff Green, they had a Bruce Brown to give them that extra punch off the bench. They have to work with Christian Brown, Payne Watson, guys that who are not accustomed to having an upwards role in terms of scoring the basketball. Nas Reed outscored their whole bench in general. 15 bench
Yeah,
points for the Denver Nuggets in this game, 16 for Nas Reed. That alone tells you that that's a area of the team where the Timberwolves can take advantage. Because Nickeil Alexander-Walker, we know that he can go for like 10, 12 points in any sort of game and hit 2 or 3 threes. We know what Anthony Edwards was able to give you, but it's about the guys around him that are able to produce on the offensive end, and they helped him out in a big way in the last game. The Denver Nuggets, they looked a little out of sorts. Nikola Jokic, man, I mean, he had an amazing game. I'm not gonna take anything away from him, but you could tell that the amount of bodies that he was getting, he was like getting like really, really like he was like feeling the effects of it at the end of that game. He had
yeah,
to deal with Nas Reed, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and although he still like probably like put up like the second best stat line in the game, you could tell that it was affecting him. Jamal Murray, compared to that series versus the Los Angeles Lakers, hasn't had to deal with the length of the Timberwolves when he has to go against a Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander, and Anthony Edwards. I love the tone that he set here because not only was he like going for 43 points, you could tell from the first possession, I'm getting Jamal Murray. I
right.
don't care. Like I don't care that he's like their best perimeter player on the court. Not only am I gonna freaking give him buckets, I'm gonna be the primary defender on him, and that is just what you want to see from your leader. I does this mean I think the Nuggets are gonna end up losing this series? I don't know,
Mhm.
but I will say that the Timberwolves are here, and we have to give them more. We have to give them a lot more credit, and this is gonna go long. This is 100% gonna go long.
Yeah, this is easy. I think I saw something on Twitter that said the person said I'm at the point where I believe that this is the pre-finals finals. Like whoever wins this
Right.
series is going to be the team that wins the NBA finals, right? And I can completely understand that because these contrasting styles, they both translate to winning basketball, right? Minnesota has won a lot of their games so far throughout the first round, 5-0 this postseason so far off of just being a really strong defensive team that's resilient in the second half of games. And that's really helped them out. And then you look at the Denver Nuggets, they're a team that applies pressure offensively throughout the entire game, but specifically knows how to turn it up in the second half. And I think that's so important when you look at the landscape of the NBA playoffs right now. Closing games, obviously, in the postseason in general, is one of the most important skill sets a team can have at this juncture in the season, right? But more
Mm-hmm.
specifically, when you look at the teams that are left, you could make an argument that these two teams are the best closing teams left in the postseason. And that's huge when you think about the kind of things that they're going to have to go up against, whether it's an Oklahoma City Thunder team, a Dallas Mavericks, a Boston Celtics, even a New York Knicks potentially, right? Like
Yeah.
it changes the dynamic significantly when you have teams like that can be poised under pressure against other teams that we've seen get a little pressure put on them. Things get a little fuzzy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I can't wait to see like how this like all plays out. One more thing before we move on to the series, the other series predictions. The
Mhm.
Denver Nuggets have won every third quarter in the playoffs so far, and against the Los Angeles Lakers. The Timberwolves beat them in this one game.
Crazy.
One of the best third quarter teams in basketball. The fact that the Timberwolves were able to go punch for them and actually outscore them by 3. Yo, if I'm Denver, I know that you're still probably the favorite, but you got to be a little bit eerie. You got to be a little bit eerie for this Timberwolves team, especially with the way Anthony Edwards is playing. You got to show some respect to them. Also, show some respect to Rudy Gobert. Utah did him dirty. This team, now you have the perfect defense around him. I want to show Rudy Gobert all the love defensively. He freaking deserves it. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on though to the other series that we haven't predicted. Now that we know the full picture of the second round, me and Jay
Mhm.
here, we're gonna go out here and make our series predictions for round 2 of the NBA playoffs. And Jay, with the we're gonna start off here with the other series in the Western Conference.
Mhm.
We got the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. First game is gonna be this Monday at 10 o'clock Eastern. Jay, throwing it over to you. Sorry, the first game is on Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern. Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you. Who do you have this winning this series, and what are you looking for?
Got the Oklahoma City Thunder winning, bro. Got the Oklahoma City
Okay.
Thunder winning. I'm gonna take them in 6 games. And the thing that I'm looking for the most is how do the Dallas Mavericks compete with the change in athleticism from round one to round two? One of the biggest things that was the advantage for the Dallas Mavericks in the games that they were able to win against the Clippers was that their two guys, obviously star studded guys, were able to play big, but their athleticism and their impact on defense showed out in moments where they were needed the most. And it was against a team where you could out athlete them and you could make the argument that based on performance throughout the series, that they had the top two guys in the series, right? They had the
Mhm.
top two performers in the series. PG, very wishy washy throughout the series. James Harden couldn't put 2 games back to back together himself. Kawhi Leonard missed majority of the series himself. So you can make the legitimate argument that the Dallas Mavericks had the top two guys in that series. What do you do against an Oklahoma City Thunder team that may arguably have the best player in the series? Because it comes down to whether or not you think Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is better than Luka Doncic. And I think that there is a real argument that can be made there if you count two-way play, not just offensive prowess. Because I think if you just go offensive prowess, I think it's still Luka over Shea, but very slightly. But then if you factor in defensive impact, I think that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander may arguably be a better player than Luka Doncic. So what do you do as the Dallas Mavericks against a Oklahoma City team that may arguably have the best player in the series and easily be the more athletic and deeper team in the series? We have to also remember the Clippers didn't have depth to save their life against Dallas. So I think it's going to be a real culture shock for the Dallas Mavericks against Oklahoma City compared to what they saw against the Clippers in round one.
It's definitely gonna be a different sort of flow for them because, I mean, the Clippers like to play it slow. They have freaking James Harden, and Paul George on the team. They are gonna slow things down. I mean, Luca's used to playing that level, but when you have Kyrie on the court, it forces them to speed it up, and that's what was a big advantage for them in that first round. Now you're gonna have to compete with a team who is in top 5 in fast break points per game, top 3 in points off turnovers. So one of the things you have to like focus on if you're the Dallas Mavericks is making sure this team is not going on the break and that you're not making mistakes around them. Shea and J Dub like live in the passing lanes. They live, especially Shea, man. Shea, I think like leads the league in like total steals or something. He lives in those passing lanes, and you know what this OKC team from 1 to 5, they love to just like go down the court quickly. So it's going to be definitely a different change for them. But what they do have is the advantage of having the two guys, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, when it comes to playoff basketball. Remember, the Thunder only had to face the Pelicans in the first round without Zion. So wasn't much of a challenge? Not really. Now they're going up against guys who are playoff veterans here. You're going up against an NBA champion and Kyrie Irving. When the game slows down, we know that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander can get his. Will the other guys around him follow suit? We don't know, especially against a veteran team like the Dallas Mavericks. We know what Luka could do in this sort of setting. We know what Kyrie Irving's going to be able to do. Can the Thunder work at both sort of paces? And that's what I'm going to be looking at for sure in this series. I do think, even though Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is a top 3 MVP candidate, he's facing another top 3 MVP candidate in Luka across from him. But I think this is a series where if you're the Thunder, you don't want us to go to Game 7. You don't want to go to Game 7 because when you have Luka and when you have especially Kyrie Irving, you don't want to be put in those situations, especially when you're a young team like that. They're still like one of the top 5 youngest teams in the league. But I think the Mavericks are going to go get to 7. And when they get to 7, I think they're going to take down the Oklahoma City Thunder, have the Mavs winning in 7.
I can't be mad at it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is a series that definitely goes the distance compared to before. And I think the most important thing that we have to factor in is I think there's just a lot of youth across the board for both of these teams, right? You can make the argument that Dallas hasn't seen a ton of playoff success with this group that they have. Obviously, like you said beforehand, Luka Doncic has been on some successful teams. Kyrie Irving has been on some successful teams, but Dallas is not littered with playoff experience either. And for the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think the main thing with them is, like you said, there's a change of pace that also is for them against the Mavericks, because Luka Doncic is easily better than any player they had to go up against offensively when they played New Orleans. You can make the argument, I think most would actually argue for it, that Luka Doncic is probably better than any player on the New Orleans Pelicans, even if Zion Williamson were healthy for that series. So you go to wonder what that's going to look like. I think the number one matchup, or I think the number one question that'll be interesting to see how things hold up is there's two. One, can Chet Holmgren duplicate a lot of what his rim defense stats spoke to in round one? Because his ability to guard the rim changes a lot in a series like this. And number two is, which one of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic is going to be the one that Dort gets the assignment on? Because then it'll be interesting to see how they A, go to attack Lou if they do at all, and B, how much more opportunity does the secondary guy get if Dort is the shutdown defender that we saw in round one?
I honestly believe that Lou's going to get the Luka Doncic assignment. And here's why. Lou's going to, I mean, you saw it with Brennan. We talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah.
You know that Luka Doncic is like number 1 in technical fouls. And Lou Dort's going to get under his skin. You don't think the Oklahoma City Thunder know that? They're going to do that. And not only is he going to make it like hell for Luka Doncic, he's going to have to make him work, but he's going to frustrate him. And they're going to put him in situations where they're going to test Luka's mental. They're going to, like, Luka, like, we know he gets a lot of technical fouls. We talk about how Draymond gets, like, is, like, kind of, like, loses his head a lot in the games. Luka does it, but he kind of spaces it out so we don't notice it as much. But we know that Luka Doncic, like, complains to the refs a lot. I think that's, like, in terms of, like, winning the mental game, putting Lou Dort on Luka Doncic has to be the matchup here.
I think it'll be interesting to see how that whole thing plays out. I think you're right, but I think that with that, Kyrie Irving is coming off one of his better series in recent memory. So, like you said beforehand, I think there's a likelihood that he ends up getting the Luka assignment, especially just because of what he's able to do from a physicality standpoint. But this is gonna be a great series, bro. And of course, the headline is two MVP candidates are going head to head. That's of course at the top of the list.
100%. I can't wait to see it. Me and Jay both think this series is gonna go long, but it's whoever's gonna win. I mean, youth has been winning throughout this. If we see a trend during these playoffs, youth has become coming out on top. will the Dallas Mavericks be able to break that trend, especially against this young OKC team? We'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be a damn good series nonetheless. Let's move over to the East though, and we're going to start off with a series that was just made as of the recording of today, because the Cleveland Cavaliers defeated the Magic in Game 7. If you want to see my full thoughts on that, check out the TikTok. But the Cleveland Cavaliers escaped. Donovan Mitchell went ape shit the last two games in order for them to get here. But now to get you gotta get the Boston Celtics. We already kind of hinted at this in the last episode. Is it gonna go along with either one of these teams? Probably, but the series is now official. Cavs versus Boston. Jay, what are you looking for in the series, and who's winning it?
Oh man. Um, Number one thing that stands out, how long is Jared Allen going to be out?
Yeah,
That is tough. Because if there's anywhere that the Boston Celtics are softer at, it's the middle, it's the paint, it's the fact that they don't have a ton of rim protection, right? They have a lot of perimeter switchability and all those things like that. But Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford are not known for their rim defense, right? So the Cleveland Cavaliers, their one out, so to speak, is to put as much pressure on the rim as humanly possible. One of the things that was the biggest catalyst to them being able to win this series, specifically if you just look at the stats for this last game, Game 7, they put a ton of pressure on the rim to the point that they dominated points in the paint. I think they won the points in the paint battle in Game 7 by like 20 points or something around there. That's something that consistently was a tail of the tape throughout their series against the Orlando Magic, who are a team that are a lot more physical and do have a lot more of a paint presence. So against a team like the Boston Celtics, who are not nearly as formidable down there, having a strong paint presence would be huge between Donovan Mitchell's driving ability and then having another dump off guy like Jared Allen there on the floor. The flip side is we also learned that even in this game, Cavaliers cannot hit a handful of threes to save their life. The Celtics are the best 3-point shooting team,
yeah,
arguably in NBA history, with the volume that they also had this year.
yeah.
So this is a series that, like, if Boston wants to hit threes at the clip we know they're capable of, where last series we saw Derek White go off 2 games last series in against Miami, where it's a little bit of pick your poison. This this definitely is not looking like a long series for Cleveland, coming off of a series that should have been winnable for them in retrospect. But and if I'm not mistaken, I think I picked Orlando in 7. So
You picked Orlando in 7. I think I picked Orlando. I picked Cavs. I think I picked Cavs in 7. So we were both like, it was gonna
yeah,
be long, but yeah,
yeah, we both thought it was gonna go a little bit longer just because we didn't want to undermine Orlando's defense all year, right?
yeah,
But we both knew that offense was going to be the calling card for who was going to win this series. And you had games where Donovan Mitchell was just the best player on the floor, and it mattered the most in Game 7. Um, Donovan Mitchell's probably the second best player in this series against the
he is.
Cavaliers. I mean,
Yeah,
against the Celtics. Does Cleveland have another best player in the top 5?
it depends on what Darius Garland we get. It really depends.
Well, the Darius Garland we just saw was had 2 points through 3 quarters,
Yeah. Look,
and
if
did
we get like,
long
yeah,
series.
yeah, it's hard to, it's really hard to kind of make an argument for really anyone on that cast to be like the second to be in that top 5. To be honest,
That's what I'm saying, because I feel like you say Jason Tatum is probably the best player in the series. Donovan Mitchell's probably second, but then I'm
Jalen
taking
Brown,
Jalen Brown over Darius Garland.
Porzingis,
I think I take Porzingis over Darius Garland.
I
I think
would
you take do you take Derek White over?
at this point, yes. At this point, yes.
And then although I don't think he's a better player, something has to be said that Jalen Suggs had a pretty good time against Darius Garland defensively. So Lord knows what that means for a more savvy veteran with a little bit more build and a lot more knowledge long term and Drew Holiday on defense. So he might
It's
not be a better player than Darius Garland, but based off what we just saw from Jalen Suggs, could he get the best of Darius Garland for a series? I think he's more than capable of that because you can make the argument that although the Cavs won the series, Jalen Suggs outplayed Darius Garland for 7 games.
besides that 7 game, then yes.
Well,
besides
yeah,
game seven, yeah, besides
but
game
neither
seven,
one of them were good in game 7, to be honest.
yeah. But yeah, that's the tough part. But in this series, I mean, you mentioned a lot of the things already. But what the last series reminded me of, at least, was that Donovan Mitchell is a freaking demon in the playoffs, bro. Like if you remember, like that once that I think what was it the bubble or the year after the bubble, the series where he went like 1-on-1 with like Jamal Murray.
It was the
Like
bubble. It was the
was it the
bubble.
bubble?
Yeah,
That like we knew how great Donovan Mitchell was a playoff performer then. He kind of had a couple of bad years mostly because of injury. I'll say that it's mostly because of injury in that
true.
last couple of years with the Utah Jazz and then last year with the Cavs. But he's coming into this, even though he's hobbled, we're seeing like the best version of Donovan Mitchell that we've seen. And if we're getting that sort of Donovan Mitchell, there is a chance that he could be the best player in the series. Because so far in the playoffs, he's been outperforming Tatum. He has been outperforming Tatum in the playoffs so far. I mean, it doesn't mean Tatum hasn't had to do much because
True.
they were dominating the Miami Heat. But Donovan Mitchell has been has been the best player out of both of these teams in the playoffs. So when it really comes down to that, and if you watch Game 7, I feel like that this is a kind of win that the Cavs needed to get the confidence up for a Max Strus, a Darius Garland. Darius Garland had a lot better fourth quarter than he did the rest of the game. Evan Mobley had a pretty good fourth quarter. This could be the type of win that can maybe catapult them into the next round to potentially like playing a lot better than they have been, and then mix that in with like a Jared Allen coming back. I think this Cavs team, although I don't expect them to win, I think that they could put like a small scare into the Celtics team. And we already know that the Celtics are going to give away one game of just their incompetence for one game in general. But I think Donovan Mitchell can carry the Cavs to another game. This is why I have the Celtics winning in 6. I have the Celtics winning in 6 in this series.
I think, yeah, you have to think that if the Miami Heat got 1 game, I don't know though, TV, because Miami got 1 game because they were able to hit the 3 ball at an uncharacteristic rate. And we know that
They needed
Cleveland
that,
is not capable of that.
but they have a freaking like they have a borderline top 10 player who can go for 50. And I think that could be like someone that can like really take them over the edge. Potentially not just 1 but 2 games. And I think that the Cavs are just a better team than the Heat in general without
I,
Jimmy Butler.
we also saw that guy go for 50 and they lost.
Yes.
I think that
Yes.
if you look at what Boston is able to do defensively, they're able to shut the water off on the others in ways that Orlando can't. Yet Orlando did, and while they let Donovan Mitchell get 50, the rest of the team could not convert on offense.
Yeah.
I think that Boston is better built to guard this team 5 out than Orlando is in terms of if they have to I keep saying Jamal Murray, if they have to let Donovan Mitchell get his, nobody else is really going to be able to thrive. I think they are better suited to take advantage of that than Orlando
Like,
was. I don't know. I think you have a
yeah,
good point. For me, I'm gonna take Boston in 5 because I think that
that's fair.
Boston just has
That's
a
fair.
real way to let a game go. It's the same thing with Miami, right? It's
Yeah.
realistic that they're going to let a game go that they shouldn't let happen. Um, this is where I would say there's an equalizer. Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers did not lose a single game at home through those 7 games.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire 7 games, the home team was 7-0 throughout that series. That doesn't mean a
The
whole
ultimate
lot,
series.
but it does mean for a Cleveland Cavaliers team that's advancing past the first round for the first time without LeBron James since 1996, that arena is going to be up and bumping every single time they play them.
Yes. Yes.
So I do think they're capable of stealing a game. And I think you might be more right that if they're going to win, if they're going to lose in 6 games, it's probably because they take the one of the 2 games that they initially face off in and steal one on the road.
Yeah.
I'm still going to take Boston in 5, but I think what we saw from last series, it gives you a lot of pros and cons. More cons in my opinion, but there are some things to cling to.
Yeah, 100%. One more thing I do want to bring up about the series, though, the Cavs, if they can somehow win the big advantage, they got those twin towers in there, and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. If they can get something offensively from either one of those guys, well,
Yeah.
at least hopefully to at least get Jared Allen back in the lineup,
Yeah.
then that could be a big thing for them because the Boston Celtics, although they are a great three-point shooting team, there's not much depth in that big man position. They have a lot of guys that can like work around the perimeter, but besides Al Horford, I mean you could throw Kanan into the mix, but Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis are not the best known for like collecting rebounds, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
if they can win that battle, they can get some offensive productivity from their bigs. That would also help. But I do think, yeah, I do have the Celtics still winning in a comfortable 6. That's kind of the same way how LeBron beat the Raptors in 6 back in 2016. I could see
Mm.
sort of the thing same happening here with the Boston Celtics.
I feel that. I feel that. I think you're probably more right than I am, to be quite frank. I just
Yeah,
man,
that's
Cleveland
fair. No, you have fair points.
Cleveland showed me a lot this series that like they are so capable, but man, does it take like pressurizing circumstances to really to really put them where they need to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It took 50 points in game 6 and basically like they came back from 18 down, which apparently is like the most in game 7 history to come back
hmm
and win from. Like they had to go through unbelievable odds to win this series against an Orlando Magic team that is young, inexperienced, and has very, very similar flaws to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, it's the Cavs again. The Cavs don't look great. Maybe I have like after watching that game 7, I have kind of that belief that Darius Garland's gonna somehow get out of his little rut. Maybe you get
Mhm.
a bit more from Evan Mobley, but maybe that's just wishful thinking. Let us know what you guys think down below. Who do you think is winning this series and again how many games? One more series to get into, Jay. Though we have a second round series between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. Now, both of these teams, well, we have a playoff, we still have a playoff baby here in the Indiana Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton leading the way. But
Mhm.
the Knicks came out of a freaking dogfight in that first round series versus the Philadelphia 76ers. Jay, throwing it over to you. What are you looking for in the series? Who do you got winning and why?
First of all, I have the Knicks winning this series, and it's because Indiana proved to me that they're not ready. They might have won the series against Milwaukee, but I don't necessarily know how much they earned it. They won a series where Giannis Antetokounmpo missed the entire series. They sold games that they should have won, more specifically game 5 without Damian Lillard. There were a handful of these games that went down to the wire where I felt like they were a little discombobulated. If you remember, we were talking about, I believe it was, what was it game 3? Was the Tyrese Halliburton game winner?
Was
Or
it
was that
game? I
game
think it was
2?
the Tyrese Halliburton game winner was game 3.
I
Yes.
believe it was game 3, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was game 3.
Game 3, they showed us that outside of the Tyrese Halliburton game winner in overtime, they showed us that they don't necessarily have a very well constructed half court offense when things get tight. It turned into give Pascal Siakam the ball and let him go one on one. And I don't think you can do that against the Knicks.
You can.
I,
You can.
I just don't think you can do that against the Knicks. The other thing that I think is the most interesting, or actually, is the Knicks were like one of the slowest paced teams in the NBA this year, while the Indiana Pacers were the second fastest team in the league this year. I think this is unlike Milwaukee where they were undermanned. I think this version of Styles makes fights between the Knicks and the Pacers is going to be a more interesting tell of whether or not the Pacers' style of play is conducive to long term success in the postseason. because the Knicks are the Knicks as currently constructed with OG Anunoby, with Josh Hart, with Mitchell Robinson on the inside,
DiVincenzo.
DiVincenzo on the wing, right? These guys, those are the kind of teams that are more made up of defenders that you see in the postseason when people say, "Oh, you're usually a full court transition team, but when the game slows down in the postseason, you won't be nearly as explosive. You won't be nearly as productive." Right? The Knicks are the kind of team on the other side that you normally see when we have those kind of debates. Not whatever shell of Milwaukee we saw, which, mind you, wasn't really the strongest defensive unit all year long either. That being even with Giannis Antetokounmpo on the floor. So with that being said, I'm gonna take I'm gonna take New York. Oh man, I think I might be reaching, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna take New York, and I'm gonna take New York in 5.
Man,
And I might be reaching, but I'm gonna keep it a bean. I don't think anybody on the perimeter wants Jalen Brunson smoke, and I don't think Jalen Brunson is gonna have 2 bad games to kick off a series like he did against Philly. The man ended the series averaging like 36 points per game.
he's the playoff leading scorer so far in the play. Yeah, he's the leading scorer in the playoffs so
Mind
far.
you, he was terrible. And even he would say this. He was terrible in games 1 and 2, despite them winning. Terrible in games 1 and 2. He was superb for the last 4 games of the series. And I don't see him slowing down against the Indiana Pacers team where I don't see a single soul that's going to be able to shut him off the way the Philadelphia 76ers did.
Bro, you're
I
making
don't
me
know.
you're making me feel a lot better with my pick because I'm also going Knicks in 5.
Oh, okay, cool. See, that makes okay, cool.
Okay,
Because I'm not gonna
okay.
lie, I think they do it in front of MSG.
Bro, I was just looking at this, and you say this all the time on the pod. Styles make fights,
Yeah,
and this is not a good matchup for the Pacers, bro. Look, they can try to outrun them. You can try to outrun them, but let's be honest. They're a small team. They have Josh Hart at power forward, who's freaking 6'4", but they will run with you. And then when you go inside, they have Isaiah Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson, who's gonna make it tough every single time you want to go inside. Pascal Siakam, he had to face off against Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. If you watch that Pacers series, Brook Lopez was like freaking backing up from him like 2 feet away every single time. That's all Pascal was able to dominate in the first 2 games. You're not gonna get that with the New York Knicks. They're gonna give you airtight space. They're gonna be slowing the game down and playing their style the entire time.
yeah,
I don't think the Pacers have the I don't think the Pacers have the answer to that. We talked about in the series right prior. How did the Pacers win? They didn't go on the fast break a lot. They didn't go on the fast
mhm,
break a lot in the first in their series versus the Milwaukee Bucks. But what did they do? They passed the ball around. Every single game they won, they had 30 plus assists.
yeah,
In this series, you have guys like DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart on the perimeter, and you don't think they're gonna be able to like disrupt any of those passing and make you guys go 1-on-1? That's what the Knicks want you to do. And then on the other end, the Pacers are one of the worst defending teams in the league,
yeah.
and they have to deal with Jalen Brunson for an entire series. I don't like that matchup for them whatsoever. I don't know exact. Are you gonna have to play TJ McConnell over 30 minutes a game just so you have someone to guard Jalen Brunson full court? I don't know, but I will say this: the Pacers have more offensive weapons, but none of those weapons are as dangerous as Jalen Brunson in the playoffs so far, man. I think the Knicks win this. They win this comfortably. It might be some close games in there, but I trust the Knicks to pull out even the close ones. Give me the Knicks in 5.
I think the other thing too is like let's go down the list. Jalen Brunson is probably the best player in the series, correct?
Yes.
Is Dante DiVincenzo going to shoot as horribly as he did for the series against the Philadelphia 76ers? Do we really think he's going to shoot that horribly from 3 again?
No, I mean like besides Game 6, he was horrible. Besides Game 6, he was horrible. But yeah, I don't trust that.
Plus, the Knicks discovered something in the sway of that series against Philly that they now can deploy again. Outside of Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam, Well, actually, Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton were their two best players, but who is their most consistent performer? Miles Turner.
Miles Turner.
Who did OG Anunoby just guard last series 2 games in a row?
OG. I mean, he defended Joel Embiid.
So let's put it in perspective, right? And mind you, Joel Embiid was worn down by the fourth quarter of both of those games. If OG Anunoby was able to hold his own defensively against Joel Embiid, how many different defensive lineups could Tom Thibodeau deploy against a run and gun team like the Indiana Pacers, where they don't necessarily have to play small because OG Anunoby is more than comfortable of guarding a person like Miles Turner. And the worst part about Miles Turner in a series like this is he's actually more prone to stepping out on the perimeter than Joel Embiid is.
Oh no, that's what I'm worried about. Miles Turner is not a physical center whatsoever.
He's not. And the fact that Indiana is not a bruising team, it makes the Knicks that much more dangerous because TV, you know what this reminds me of? This series, in a weird way, reminds me of Knicks Cavs last season. This Indiana Pacers team, good throughout the regular season, thrives within their role, top level guard, 2-man game on point between them and between Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. But what happens when the other team is just too damn physical on both sides of the ball? I don't know if they have an answer for that. The same way I don't think that Cleveland was ready for it last year. The same way that I don't think Cleveland was all the way ready for it this year against Orlando. Right? Their inability to respond to physicality was the only reason why their series went 7. I think the only reason why the Indiana Pacers series went 6 was their inability to deal with physicality as well. There's not a world that we can step on where Bobby Portis should be able to guard Pascal Siakam on 3 straight possessions and Pascal Siakam go 0 for 3. Guess what? That happened multiple times where there were 2 to 3. Over the course of the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter in game 5, Bobby Portis got that assignment about 3 or 4 times, and Pascal Siakam scored the ball maybe once. That does not happen. That does not happen normally. Against a New York Knicks team that's going to pack the paint in a way that's much more serviceable than what the Bucks were able to do, because the Bucks don't have Giannis on the back line in the series. In this one, they have Mitchell Robinson. In this one, they have Isaiah Hartenstein. In this one, they have your boy Precious Achiuwa, who had a very solid back end to that series against the Knicks. Against the 76ers. There's a lot to like for the Knicks in this one, and it makes me worry about the Pacers. I feel like the Pacers blew their chance for us to believe that they were a real team, at least this year.
I never, even after their win against the Bucks, I didn't have any confidence in them going into the series.
Crazy.
That's truly what it was. Man, one more thing before we move on to the postmortems. I just want to know if you see this too. Do you see, this New York Knicks team is reminding me of like the Heat teams that went to the finals, man. They're reminding me a little bit of them.
I agree. I think the fact that they're just built with a different TV, the way they won game 2 that's not by accident. It looks like it. It looks like it when you think about all the things.
It was the Knicks way. It was the Knicks way of doing it.
There you go, TV. That's exactly how I feel about it. Although it looks like luck, it looks like the ball bounced the right way. It looks like the refs didn't call fouls when they might have needed to be called as fouls on Tyrese Maxey. The timeout wasn't called, but it was called. All of those different dynamics. Yeah. You know, the one thing that stayed consistent through those final 3 minutes, the Knicks played the way they've always played all season long. That game 2 told me everything I needed to know about their identity as a possible playoff contender. I don't know what the Indiana Pacers signature game is that tells me this is the way that the Indiana Pacers are going to make a long run in the postseason. Because I don't think game 3 tells us that's their way to win, because I think game 3 was a game they let go and made up for at the end. That was a game where they were up big time at halftime, and we thought the game was going to be over lickety split, the same way Game 6 went,
Yeah.
basically. Instead, the game got way more interesting, and soon it almost got out of hand, and they were able to recover. But I don't think that the Indiana Pacers necessarily have a signature win in their first round matchup. I think you can point to 2 or 3 specific performances throughout the first round for Philadelphia that says, like, yep, this is Knicks basketball.
Yeah. The Knicks showed us who they were. The Pacers are still trying to find an identity, and if anything is going to happen this series, that the Knicks are going to fully show who they are, especially the team who's not ready for it.
Yeah,
And I think that's what the Knicks are going to do.
I agree.
But yeah, those are the 3 series, man. Those are 3 series left in the second round that we had to cover. Let us know down below what you guys think. Who do you have winning any of these 3 series, and in how many games? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Jay, it's time to pull out the tissues, man, because it's time for a little postmortem for the Western Conference teams that have been gone. Now we're not really we might talk a little bit about their future, but that's more for the offseason in general. But we're basically gonna give a little review on their season and say whether like it was a success or not, or just kind of just see like where they stand currently in the NBA right now. So we're gonna do a little bit of a postmortem. Shout out to our guy on TikTok, or I think you went on his podcast the other day. Was his name?
Oh, Brian?
Brian, yeah, shout out to him. He does this with every NBA team on TikTok. Shout out to you.
Yeah.
But let's go through the teams that got eliminated. First up, the Phoenix Suns, man. This had to be one of the most colossal failures in NBA history, where you had a team with these 3 stars, this much invested in them, and they end up going out in a first round sweep. Quick thoughts on them?
I mean, you might have summed it up before we got into it. It has to be one of the biggest failures we've seen in recent memory.
Yeah.
9 points, foul out by Bradley Beal, which was basically your biggest acquisition to justify this team being considered a super team with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and then adding Bradley Beal to the mix this offseason. This past offseason. They brought in a handful of minimum guys who at the time all looked like pretty solid signings, and literally only one of them survived the trade deadline. Only one. Only one. And you can make an argument that their best non-Bradley Beal acquisition was Royce O'Neal, who was acquired at the trade deadline. So you have that. You're staring at an offseason where you're going to have to pay Grayson Allen. I think, or did he just actually get recently paid? No?
He got recently paid. It's like a
So you
3
just
or 4 year
recently
deal.
you just recently paid Grayson Allen. You have a ton of money acclimated to your 3 main guys. And the only thing you can walk away from this series saying is the thing that we've heard from the last handful of Kevin Durant super teams. We didn't have continuity. I'm sorry, bro, but after a while, that excuse just runs thin and it really hurts because they're running out of time and they been ran out of assets. They ran out of assets long time ago. Remember when James Jones said that we don't even pay attention to the draft? Oh yeah, we can tell. We can tell.
Oh, you know what this offseason is for James Jones? Oh, we have 2 more picks that are going to open up for us. Let's get ready to trade them.
No, exactly. So all of that to say, like, I definitely agree with your opening point, which is, I mean, of all the teams that have been eliminated this postseason, I think the most disappointing loss has to be for Phoenix. And it's not just that they lost, but you got swept. And only one game felt really competitive in that series.
You said it there, man. Like what else are they gonna do? They're gonna rotate to another 8 minimum guys on their roster. They're gonna rotate some of them out and get some new guys in. Literally, the only thing they could do is hopefully that most of these guys come back at minimum deals, and just hope that continuity works out.
Yeah.
And what did this year tell you about this team? You had so many holes that even if you do end up getting some chemistry and stuff during the off season, is this team even good enough to still make it past the second round? I don't think so, man. And you're on the clock for Bradley Beal, who's again, I mean, he's not super old, but let's be honest, he's been on the decline. Kevin Durant's turning 36 soon, and you're just slowly but surely wasting the prime of Devin Booker. Something
Yeah.
big has to happen, but let's be honest, nothing is going to happen. Bradley Beal's trade value is at the lowest point, and you probably can't even trade him because he has a no trade clause still. What are you going to do with Yusuf Nurkic? You just re-signed Grayson Allen. The only thing you can do is keep this team together. And even with that, I don't have any confidence in it in this team whatsoever. They're gonna find. Let's be honest. They're gonna fire Frank Vogel. They're gonna try to find something new. But if they want any sort of chance of like having more success moving forward, I say just bring everyone back and just hope for the best. Because that's the only way that they're gonna be able to even like get better than they did this year.
Yeah, it's not looking up for Phoenix at all, bro. They are in a tough position because financially they're not okay. Their only legitimate out is trading Kevin Durant, which is almost an admit to failure instantaneously
Yeah,
by turning around and trading him not even that long after acquiring him. Oh man,
it's a rough time to be a Phoenix fan right now. It's a rough
yeah,
time.
it's not good, bro. It's definitely one of those things where coming off of two really strong seasons, at least from a regular season standpoint, to what this year looked like, I mean, there's not much direction, and that's tough. That's super tough.
Yeah. Usually I would say like there's like some tradable pieces here and there, but with the Suns, there really isn't. You have really like nowhere to go except stay stagnant, and that really sucks knowing what happened at like how this year ended up.
Yeah.
All right, man. Moving on to the next team, we say RIP to the New Orleans Pelicans season. They gave us a little tease during the play-in tournament how Zion can look in postseason basketball, but in typical Zion Williamson fashion, he got injured and he was out for the remainder of the playoffs. Couldn't even score 95 points in any of the games in their series versus the OKC Thunder, and just completely crashed out of the playoffs. Jay, what are your words for the New Orleans Pelicans?
Another tough end to a season. Another year where you get so close to hopefully seeing Zion Williamson in real 7 game series playoff basketball, and they fall a game short, basically, of being able to see it happen. And then you throw on top of that that they just did not perform well against a young Oklahoma City Thunder team, which obviously was just the better team.
Yes.
Um, and their overall philosophy was definitely better than anything that New Orleans has been working with as of late. The biggest question I have for New Orleans now is like, how much longer can you keep running into this wall of just saying, well, we didn't have our best player, and so that's why this season is not considered a failure? No. You know what the problem is? Zion Williamson had one of his healthiest seasons, and you had to fight to get out of the play-in tournament. You know what the problem is? That Brandon Ingram came off of a rough off season with Team USA, and it didn't get any better during the regular season for him. You know what's tough is the fact that CJ McCollum is still your starting point guard. And I'm at the belief and juncture now that I don't think he can be your second or third best player on your team if you want to be a viable postseason threat. Jordan Hawkins barely played in the playoffs. Trey Murphy III has to get paid. What are you going to do with my boy Dyson Daniels? I feel like the hardest part about the New Orleans Pelicans is every single season, despite the optimism we always have for them at the end of the year, we always end the year with more questions than answers. And this year is no different, despite the fact that this was their closest chance to seeing themselves fully actualized. And not only did they unfortunately miss that mark, but now we come right back to the drawing board with questions that we've had for the last 2 seasons. Can they survive another season with Zion Williamson as their best player? Does Brandon Ingram actually fit on this team? Should we really have paid CJ McCollum that extension money considering the fact that he's not on this team's timeline? These are all questions we've been asking for the last 2 seasons. And here we are again. Things have not improved. The questions are the same, and the answers are still as uncertain as they were 2 years ago.
This team is literally the Atlanta Hawks, but at least the Atlanta Hawks have a conference finals to show for it. They're living.
Yo.
They at least have a conference finals. This team is living off the fact that they took the Phoenix Suns to 6, and they said that for the past 3 seasons that this is enough to keep this core together, and not realize the actual problems with this roster. Like they were like, all we need is Zion, and we're there. When has Zion been available?
Yeah.
Literally nothing. None of the time, man. Brandon Ingram's not number one. He does. CJ McCollum is not even a number three at this point. It's not a number three at this point in his career. There needs to be major changes with this roster. You want to make sure that Zion's healthy and going into next season, but you also need a foolproof plan for when that inevitably doesn't happen. You need to bring in another like 1A, 1B type of guy. And that means if that means trading away Brandon Ingram or letting him go, then do it. Because clearly this hasn't been working. You have some nice young guys that can be like long-term pieces to your future. Dyson Daniels, Jordan Hawkins, Trey Murphy, this and that.
Yeah.
But you're going to need to make some changes to this roster. And I hope that this series really opened their eyes to that. This Pelicans team, there's still some promise, and I do like Willie Green as a head coach, but they can't just look at what the last 3 years have been and think that okay, we can run this back because they shouldn't be able to.
Mm-mm. I mean, I heavily agree. I feel like the biggest problem for the New Orleans Pelicans is they've been able to use Zion Williamson's health as an excuse, and there comes a point where that doesn't hold any merit anymore, and you have to make a legitimate change. You have to make a pivot in order to become a better team. This team is drafted well. Trey Murphy III has been solid. Jordan Hawkins, I said this earlier in the year. Orlando, Toronto, they wish that they had got a shooter like Jordan Hawkins to play more long term. I bet you Orlando would have missed a Jordan Hawkins in a series like this one against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where nobody could seem to hit a 3-point shot. You know what I mean? They've drafted well. They have the Dyson Daniels as well, a good two-way player, very good on the perimeter as a defender. Like they've done a good job getting guys, but now TV they just remind me of like the 2019 version of the Orlando Magic, the team that just has a plethora of starters, right? A plethora of guys who
Yeah,
could start around the NBA, but no real structure that makes them a cohesive basketball team.
yeah,
That's exactly what they look like to me. And that's a team that's running a hamster wheel that is never, ever going to move forward.
yeah. A disappointing end to the Pelican season, man. And something has to change. We'll probably look at like what they could do in the offseason when the time comes. But man, this Pelicans team, there needs to be not just changes, but major changes to this roster
Yeah.
because clearly this isn't working. Brandon Ingram is not going to be the number two for you, but they do have assets, which is good. They do have
Yeah.
assets to maybe make changes to maybe upgrade that number two and number three options, but it's up to them to really ultimately make the decision. The Pelicans have potential in that aspect, but they can't run it back with this roster. They clearly can't.
Mm-hmm.
Next team though, interesting to see what you have thoughts on this team. The Los Angeles Lakers. Man, this team, 5 games with the Nuggets, one better than last year, but it's another year older for Anthony Davis, another year older of LeBron James. Jay, your your final words for the Los Angeles Lakers.
I mean, we saw it coming. That's the hard part about trying to call it a failure is we saw it coming. We didn't think they were good enough. We didn't think against a team like the Nuggets that D'Angelo Russell was going to be enough. That the two-man game of LeBron James and Anthony Davis was going to be enough to outlast them. That Rui Hachimura could afford to be your third most consistent player offensively, and they actually win the series. We never thought it was going to be enough. We never thought that there was going to be a series where LeBron James and Anthony Davis could go scoreless or take less than 5 shots in fourth quarters and the Lakers actually win the series. These are all things we knew before the series began, so it's no way to truly be disappointed in the way the series played out. But now you look at their future and you have to wonder to yourself, how it's similar to Phoenix. How much better can you get? Sure, you can let D'Angelo Russell walk. Doesn't leave you that much money. Sure, you have 3 available draft picks that now you can pair, with a young player like Austin Reeves, for example, maybe, and trade for a Trey Young has been the name that's come up a million times, or go after a Donovan Mitchell, who I think Donovan Mitchell is going to be a lot harder to pursue after the Cleveland Cavaliers getting out of the first round. But sure, you can do that. Does it change much? Does it make LeBron James not 40? Does it not make Anthony Davis not on the other side of 30 years old? Does it change the fact that both of your two all-star players ran out of gas in the fourth quarter in multiple games against the Denver Nuggets? Does it change the fact that the overall roster construction that you have is never going to go back to what it was during the NBA bubble when you were at your best construction wise? And most of all, they got rid of Darvin Ham. And although I'm not going to sit here and play advocate for Darvin Ham, does bringing in Mike Budenholzer, does calling upon good friend and fellow podcast host JJ Redick as head coach, does that change life for the Lakers in a way that puts them over the hump? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And so now you have a LeBron James who might be contemplating retirement for the second time, and this time with maybe some more validity than last year. And you have a Lakers team that has very little flexibility left to get better as a championship caliber team, and damn sure doesn't have the kind of flexibility to have any type of long term success if they decide to make any big moves this summer. So they're officially in a damned if you do, damned if you don't, and they're just running around in circles like a chicken with their head cut off, which I think is what we've said at the end of every season since 2021. Maybe last year we gave them some leeway with the Western Conference Finals, but we all felt like it was a flash in the pan, and we only gave them credit because we kept telling ourselves, as long as they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they can win any series. Well, guess what? Next year, San Antonio could be better because Victor Wembanyama might mess around and win DPOY this year as a rookie. Memphis was coming back. Houston is under control, and now they're a team that's viable, right? The Golden State Warriors have the potential flexibility to do something this summer. Sacramento's pissed because they want to get back to the playoffs after making it last year. This only gets more difficult in the West for the Lakers. And unfortunately, they're one of those teams at the bottom of the barrel that don't have a lot of leeway while they watch the rest of the conference only getting better.
And that's the ultimate point I want to make, because as the teams in the West get better, they witnessed it firsthand this year. As those teams get better, you mentioned all of them over there. The Lakers are either going to get stagnant or take a step back. And taking a step back feels like the more logical option with the way that their two stars are aging.
Yeah.
Like, you got lucky this year that Anthony Davis was able to play 65 plus games, 70 plus games. You've had that, you had that with you all season long. And what did
Yes.
that result in? A first round exit.
Yes.
You had that. But I will say that having a competent coach that knows what he's doing from game one will help. Darvin Ham, we already know the amount of starting lineups he messed with this year until he decided to go back to what worked last year. And lo and behold, that's when the Lakers started winning again. Having a competent head coach will help. And I think it was a needed change.
Yeah.
Changes beside that are few and far between. I don't know how they be what they have left to get that third star, if there even is one on the market. You honestly just have to hope that Austin Reeves takes the next step. You got to hope that someone like Rui Hachimura gets better. And with the way that this team is coached, the way that this team has been run, how they look on the court, it's unlikely to see that happen. I think that the Lakers have seen their best years behind them. You just want to make sure that you give LeBron James another best chance with him and Anthony Davis at the helm, and try to go for it one last time. You can call it the last dance, even though they've not clearly had enough as much success as that of the Chicago Bulls team.
Yeah.
But we might have to get to that point. Them and the Warriors, man, both of them are gonna have to have that little last stand season. And I think they're very much coming upon that year.
Yeah. I definitely, I mean, I totally agree. I already went on a little bit longer of a tangent than
Yeah,
I even expected to, so I don't have too much more to say. But man, I mean, this Lakers team, there's a hand as as competitive as the Western TV. I'll ask you this in the form of a
yeah.
question. As competitive as this Western Conference was this year, is there a group more in turmoil than the Pacific Division right now? Like think of so the teams in the Pacific
Yeah, I
Division, for
know.
those who don't know,
I
like
have it in my head. I have it in my head.
yeah,
Literally, the only team that feels like they have something under control is the Kings.
because and you have to wonder about them as well because the Kings have not been able to put two seasons together. Remember, we saw a flash in the pan year last year, and this was a strong year for them, but they came back to earth and they came back hard. They were a top 3 seed the season before. They were fighting for their playoff lives in the first round of two in the play-in tournament, right? So this is a team that went from first round first round automatic in the playoffs as a 3 seed to having to
Mhm.
play 2 games to then eventually get bounced out from playoff contention. But if you look at, for those who are not familiar with exactly what the Pacific Division is, the Los
Mhm.
Angeles Clippers, the Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Lakers, Sacramento Kings, and the Golden State Warriors. I'm sorry, bro, but I think if you look at any division in basketball, no division has more up in the air than the Pacific Division.
The thing is, all those 5 teams can be playoff teams, but with the way that they're run and the way that they're set up, they could also be like all those 14, like all 4 of those 5 teams could be fighting with each other in the play-in. That's how volatile
Exactly.
that division is.
It's crazy stuff, bro. I mean,
It's
I mean, am I tripping? Like, is there
no,
any other
you're not.
division in basketball really like when you think about the big questions we're gonna ask over the offseason, right? Because me and you are gonna do a ton of podcasts breaking down these teams. But if you think about all the teams this offseason and all the questions we're gonna ask about these teams, is there any division that you see that even is in contention for
No,
as stressful this as this one? Because I don't think there is.
no, there isn't. There really isn't. It,
That's
it doesn't
tough,
help that they
bro.
also have some of the biggest names. They also have some of the biggest egos. They also have some of the biggest like team brands in the, all of the NBA. So not only
Yeah,
they're gonna be having to deal with like the stuff internally, they're gonna have to deal with media and all that because the coverage on them is gonna be wild. So
facts. Whew.
so that all those factors combined, it's gonna be a tough road, probably for everyone except for the Kings. The Kings know there's not going to be much attention paid to them, but every one of those other any like one of those other teams, there's going to be a ton of coverage on every single one of them. But Jay, you talked about the Pacific Division. One more team that we have to do a post mortem on: the Los Angeles Clippers. Another year, another time where we have to say that Kawhi Leonard is not available for the postseason. Honestly, I'm just watching this postseason and watching how his Clippers career has ran. I'm glad that he was able to bring us this. I was glad he was able to bring us that. Thank you, Kawhi's knees, for not giving out that one playoff run. He fought for us. We appreciate it. Thank you for that, Larry O'Brien. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like you're gonna get anywhere close to that because you're just not gonna be ready. Um, they've re-signed him to a contract already to this for the next 4 years. Jay, final words for the Los Angeles Clippers.
Good thing Steve Ballmer got a lot of money. Because,
Yeah,
man, other than that, this team, what more can you do? You beg for a point guard every year and you get a point guard upgrade every season. You get a new star name every chance you get. You get a strong regular season out of Kawhi Leonard until the final 15 games or so. And third time's the charm for Luka Doncic, who just was not having it losing to the LA Clippers in a postseason round anymore.
yeah.
It's like, what? Look, bright side, you're moving to a new building. You already have Kawhi Leonard locked up. You're more than likely going to retain James Harden. There's questions around whether or not you'll probably bring back Russell Westbrook. But if I'm being honest, Russell Westbrook was probably your most consistent player for the team all year, outside of when Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were both healthy. But that comes down to consistency as well. Paul George, again, you want to talk about turmoil? He hasn't resigned yet. That's kind of a notable thing considering that teams like the Detroit Pistons, who I think he obviously won't go to, but like the Pistons, the Philadelphia 76ers, they have money. Uh the Oklahoma City Thunder could acquire him in a sign and trade, bring him back to Oklahoma City, and put him next to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander as currently constructed. I, I mean, I'm lost for words with the Clippers because it's like, what more can you do? What more?
They
Like
can't.
The Lakers dug themselves a hole after 2020 because they just didn't realize how good their team was from a construction standpoint. The Clippers have had really good construction dating back to 2020. I've said the last couple of years, this might be a top 3 unit in basketball, top to bottom in terms of their top 10, maybe let's say top 8. But every single year, it doesn't matter how good their depth is, because if their top 2 guys aren't healthy when it matters, then they're not as good as they look on paper. And for four
Yeah,
straight years, Kawhi Leonard and or Paul George have missed significant time and or missed postseason time. What more can you do?
oh, they're not going to do anything else. They're going to bring this lineup as is, and they're going to make sure that they fill up all of the toilets there in their new in their new arena, man. That's in, by the way, that's in reference to Steve Ballmer talking about how they have 11,000 toilets in their new arena and how that's 3 times more than the average NBA arena. They need to fill up those toilets, man, and
Shout
you're
out to
gonna do
y'all.
that. Shout out to yeah. But I mean, like, you're gonna need to get those guys to come back in order to sell the tickets. That's really all it comes down to at this point. I think the ship has sailed with them. I mean, this year looked like the best year possible because Kawhi Leonard actually played 65 plus games. It finally looked like that there was something there that the Clippers can kind of go off on. They finally got James Harden in there, but even then they weren't ready for postseason time. So I feel like the ship has sailed. This is probably the best chance they got. And same thing with the Suns, same thing with the Lakers, same thing with them. The rest of the league is just going to continue to get better. The rest of the West is just going to continue to get better. And you guys are kind of strapped to what your teams have already, and you can't really
Mm,
move past it.
yeah,
So whether it's a youth thing, whether it's just these guys getting older, just there's not a lot of room for the Clippers to go.
mm-mm. I mean, we've learned this postseason. If there's one takeaway I've gotten from round one, the league is catching up.
The league is we the future is closer than we think.
A
The
lot
future,
close. Well, freaking said TV. Way closer than you would think. Here are the names that are not going to be in the second round of the postseason: LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. Where I need to keep going
Steph
down the list.
Curry,
Steph Curry isn't going to be here.
James
De'Aaron
Harden.
Fox obviously isn't here. Man,
Yeah, yeah. You get the
like
point. Yeah, get
you
the point. Yeah,
get the point I'm trying to make.
yeah,
Like Jimmy Butler isn't here, right?
yeah.
These are like if you go down the list of the guys that are not going to be in the second round, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, like these are
Yes,
all guys that we have associated postseason basketball with for a bare minimum, the last 5 years, probably the last 10, if we're being honest. Since
yes.
about 20, let's say 2014, but really let's go back to like the early, the latest being 2016. So 8 years of our basketball fandom lives. 2016, the year where basketball turned its head over and turned into something we never thought it ever would turn into in our lives. Since then, these are all names that have been associated with postseason basketball. The double doink game for Kawhi Leonard, call bank shot in postseason against the Washington Wizards for LeBron James. Called Kyrie Irving, who is in the second round, right? He's a guy who hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history. But you know who also hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history? Damian Lillard, twice.
Yeah.
Twice. These are guys that we're not going to see in the second round. The second round of the playoffs. If that's not proof that the league is headed in a completely different direction and it's happening fast, then guess what? Victor Wembanyama is going to be in year 2 and John Moran is coming back. Good luck.
Closer than we think, bro. The future is now. The future
real.
is now. I mean, all I can say is look, like we mentioned, the NBA moves at a quick pace. The league is in good hands for the next decade going forward. We're good.
Yeah.
The NBA is. But yeah, post-mortem, RIP to those teams and their seasons. We're gonna go through the East in the next episode. I will say that.
Yeah.
There's gonna be definitely a lot more discussion around that. But yeah, let me just know down below what you guys think of the West teams that got eliminated. And of course, again, we're gonna talk about the East going forward in the next episode.
Yeah.
Jay, final segment of the show is you might want to bring out your snack for this one. Because Jay, we're gonna quote unquote spice things up for this.
You're terrible. I hate this guy, man. I hate this guy, man.
We're gonna spice things up. We're gonna spice our NBA draft up. We are now moving on to the 2013 NBA draft, and in this draft, we're gonna be going back and forth again to try and create the best draft lineup possible. But for Jay's punishment, after every single pick, he's gonna have to eat one of those ghost pepper type of popcorns, bro.
Here goes the thumbnail.
The thumbnail. There we go. That was a great thumbnail to put. Perfect. Thank you for pausing it to everything. That makes it a lot easier for me. Yeah, this is great. But yeah, we have a 2013 NBA draft, and if you've been a basketball fan for long enough, you know this draft is not that great. You've had some bad drafts in the past, especially in the early ones, but boy, this is going to be a tough one to go through. And it's going to even be tougher for Jay trying to keep his head straight while trying to eat these popcorns. So,
no kidding.
How do you feel about this draft, and how do you feel about this punishment, bro?
I don't know, TV. I'm going to say this much. The bright side is I think you're going to have a harder time drafting than I am. So I don't know what's going to be harder, watching me eat these or watching TV try to figure out who his 2 players are to stop my first pick.
I talked about it. It's going to be tough. But look, hopefully I can catch you slipping. Hopefully we get someone like Tony Snell off the board for yourself because you can't think straight. But we'll see how this goes. You know how these drafts go. Jay gets the first pick. I get the next 2. And we run things serpentine style. Jay, take that bit of popcorn. What? Take your first pick now. Take your first pick now, bro.
This is the truth. My first overall pick is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh my God.
Okay,
wow.
Damn. You might not. Okay, we'll do it like we'll make you do like maybe 2 or 3. I just realized that doing 10 might be a bit too much. We'll make you do like 2 or 3 during this because this might be a little bit tough. But yeah, Giannis is the first.
I'll do one for all of my picks.
Fine. Fair.
That's fine. That's fair.
I'll do that.
It's the overall punishment. I lost. I did lose, but
okay.
This shit is real though. Oh my God.
Good luck, bro. So yeah, we got Giannis as the first pick. I'm gonna get my next 2. It's gonna be so tough. My next 2 picks, if you can hear me, Jay, I'm gonna go with Rudy Gobert as the next guy. At least we have someone protecting the rim, and we need someone out on the perimeter to help defend. Let me go with prime Victor Oladipo.
I'm not gonna lie. It hurts to talk. That Rudy Gobert pick is solid. If you had to pick anybody to stop Giannis, that's probably your best bet. Oh my God.
Yo, shout out to the guys on Hot Ones because this must be exactly how they feel every time they have to answer a question.
No, for real. Because this is the truth.
Okay.
Shout out Devil's Heat, man. Sponsor the pod. Okay, your first 2 were Rudy Gobert and who?
Rudy Gobert, and I took Victor Oladipo.
Okay. I'm gonna go. Ooh, first bite. CJ McCollum.
CJ McCollum, okay.
Just got worse.
Okay.
Ooh. And KCP.
KCP, okay. Good. We're not gonna do much. We're not gonna do much explanation on this draft. We're gonna try to help Jake get through.
Oh my
This is
god.
so tough. I feel bad for you, bro. Okay. Nice 2 picks there. You got some guys out of the All right, bro. My next 2 picks. I'm gonna pack the paint. I'm gonna pack the paint with Giannis on your team. I'm not gonna let him have any breathing room on the inside. Give me, give me Steven Adams to run my 4, and also to run my 1. I'm gonna pick up. There's a few guys I can go with here. I'm actually gonna go. You know what? Let's go with Dennis. We'll go with Dennis Schroeder. We're gonna go with Dennis Schroeder.
Oh my god.
This is so tough.
I'm crying. Oh, oh shit. Ooh.
Oh, dude. Oh my God, is bro,
All
we
right,
can make it
TP.
to the go, bro.
I'm not
We
gonna
can.
lie. Whew, I don't think I can eat more.
That's good. That's good. Uncle.
Oh,
Yo.
oh, oh my god.
Woo.
Whew.
You
Oh,
got
that
your
was,
you got your last 2 picks, bro.
yeah. Who are they? Oh my god.
So yeah, I chose
Who are your
Dennis
last picks?
Schroeder,
Who are your last picks?
Steven Adams, and Dennis Schroeder.
Dennis Schroeder. Okay, okay. um, let me get let me get MCW at the 2.
Okay.
Whew. And oh my god. Let me get I'm dying.
I know you're getting the 3
Let me get Maryland Violets. Let me get Alex Lynn.
Ooh.
Oh
I'm telling
my
you, there's
god.
gonna be a slip up. There's gonna be a slip up. Let's go. Oh, bro, it's all good, man. I'm gonna put you out your misery because my final pick here, just so we can get out of this segment. Let me go with Otto Porter Jr. Oh
Otto
my
Porter
God,
Jr. would have been a good pick. Oh my god, damn it.
Jay.
Give me. Oh.
This boy is dying.
Oh my god.
Oh my God.
Uh,
Yo,
uh,
I'm so glad I didn't get to lose that punishment. Jeez. Jay,
uh,
drink some up.
uh,
All right,
uh,
Jay,
uh,
if possible,
uh.
this guy, this guy brought his whole pantry to the recording.
Shout out to my girl. She brought necessities. Uh,
You need something? All right, Joe, bro. If you can, what
trying.
was your what ended up being your draft for your 2013 NBA draft?
My 2013 NBA draft starting 5. Oh my god. Is CJ McCollum at the 1, which the Pelicans will never do again.
Yeah.
Michael Carter Williams at the 2, Contavious Caldwell Pope at the 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo at the 4, and Alex Lynn at the 5.
Oh, that's a tough one. Eat that piece of bread. I'm gonna go through my team real quick. I got Dennis Schroeder at the 1, Victor Oladipo at the 2, Otto Porter Jr. at the 3, Steven Adams at the 4, and Rudy Gobert at the 5. Jay, I'm gonna put you out of your misery. Take down that bread, drink some more milk. Let us know down below what you guys think. Who had the better team between 2 O's in this draft? For the ultimate punishment for the Daily NBA Picks Challenge, man, this is looking rough for my boy. But yeah, let us know down below what team ended up winning this draft. Jay, we have reached another end of a fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. Do you have any final thoughts to tell these beautiful people before we sign off?
Hey guys, definitely give us suggestions for future ways to do the Daily Picks Challenge, other ways for me and TV to be able to do other bets like these. I need TV to understand what kind of pain I'm going through right now. Oh my God. This has been a great first round to the NBA playoffs. The second round should be even more intriguing considering the matchups look like they're bound to be even more interesting. I love all of you guys. I will see you guys on Wednesday's pod. I can't feel my eyeballs.
Yo,
Oh
bro.
man, TV, get us out of here.
I know, bro. Let's put that into the recording soon. This man has a whole piece of bread in his mouth. For the audio listeners. Man, thank you guys for watching. Remember to check out our individual pages between Jumper and TV on basketball. Check out the daily stuff on TikTok. Support us on YouTube and on the podcast networks. We appreciate all of you. What an end to the Daily NBA Picks Challenge. What a draft. We're going to be back here later on this week for some more playoff talk. And until then, this is TV. This is Jay signing out. Take it easy, guys.
Peace.